Offensive line, that's critical for Shedeur. Said it when Tom Brady was taken. The offensive line's got to protect him. He's got to have that fortress in front of him, as Brady did, allowed him to have that success. You think about what he had at Colorado. He dealt with adversity. He dealt with a muddy pocket. He done it with everything NFL conditions lead you to have to deal with once you get to the pro level. Then you think about the character. I think this is the misperception. I think the fact of the matter is Deion was a great teammate. Deion practiced hard. They loved him in the NFL. They loved him with the Atlanta Braves in Major League Baseball. Shedeur, he will galvanize. He'll be that kind of guy. So again, the offensive line, if you're talking about the Cleveland Browns, that's the issue, guys. If they can protect him, obviously get the weapons, but up front is where they got to be strong. You allow him to do his job, and he will be a surgeon. He will pick you apart.
Mel Kiper Jr., Shedeur Sanders. Oh, I'm in love with you. Do you love me? That is basically what Mel Kiper is saying about Shedeur Sanders. This is Sports Guy talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Shedeur Sanders finally getting drafted by the Browns. Shedeur Sanders was picked in the 5th round of the 2025 NFL Draft. In fact, Shedeur Sanders was selected with the 144th pick of the 2025 NFL Draft. Before I say anything else, though, I want to present you guys with a topic question. So, here it is. How will Shedeur Sanders' NFL career play out on the Browns? It is an interesting question to me, mainly because there are a lot of possibilities that may happen with Shedeur Sanders on the Cleveland Browns, but I'm going to say that Shedeur Sanders will certainly be good enough to play on the Browns for multiple years. This is not a situation where he is going to get a training camp invite, he plays in the preseason, and then he gets stuffed on the practice squad on a permanent basis. Shedeur Sanders is in a crowded quarterback room. However, I am confident that Shedeur Sanders will at least be the quarterback 3 of this Browns team. I believe he's a better quarterback than Dillon Gabriel. I don't understand how Dillon Gabriel even went in the 3rd round of the 2025 NFL Draft. The guy is so small, he's short, slow, and has a noodle arm. I understand he had a productive college career, but he doesn't really have skills that can translate to the pro game. Some people have cried about how Shedeur Sanders is a small quarterback, but he's a bigger quarterback than Dillon Gabriel. He's also a quarterback that has more pro-ready-like skills compared to Dillon Gabriel. I understand Dillon Gabriel was the more productive player compared to Shedeur Sanders statistically speaking, but that's because he was playing in a full-time air raid offense. He was getting carried at Oregon. It's not exactly like Dillon Gabriel was this amazing player that was going to translate into being a starting quarterback in the National Football League. When you watch Shedeur Sanders play, he has the ability to make clutch plays when it matters most. He has a knack for making big-time plays in big-time games. However, the problem with Shedeur Sanders is that he holds onto the football forever, and of course, you have to think about his off-the-field baggage. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders is not a criminal, but he is a diva. He interviewed poorly, and obviously, Deion Sanders has been micromanaging his son's entire football career. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's not necessarily a good thing either. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders has the ability to have underrated accuracy, but he also takes a million sacks. He also has the issue of patting the ball every time before he throws the ball. So he's got a slow release. He doesn't have a great arm. His accuracy is pretty good, but it's not necessarily elite. And of course, you have to think about all the baggage that comes with Shedeur Sanders off the field. I also want to show you guys this clip of Mel Kiper Jr. talking about how Deion Sanders will not be a micromanager for his son Shedeur Sanders at the NFL level. He talked about how Shedeur Sanders was going to be an incredible quarterback at the NFL level. I was laughing the entire time Mel Kiper was saying this because it's pretty clear that he is in love with Shedeur Sanders. Roll the film.
Shedeur Sanders, to me, when you talk about the locker room and the players around him, they love him. Now, the perception from others outside, based on what there's the noise, maybe they didn't like what they heard. I don't know how it was handled. You get all the word about this, that. You think, well, they're just trying to hurt Shedeur. Teams are still throwing it out there. You don't know what was true, what wasn't. How Deion's going to operate. Deion's going to stay out of it. Deion's going to be calling or threatening any coaches or saying, or there'll be a threat that Deion could take over. Deion's not happy. Deion's not going to say anything. Deion's going to coach Colorado. So a lot of this stuff, I think, just made no sense to me, kind of the negativity you heard over the last couple months.
Really, Mel Kiper? You're going to try to play fanboy mode on Shedeur Sanders? Did Deion Sanders pay you under the table to rave about Shedeur Sanders like this. Look, this is coming from a guy that had Shedeur Sanders as the quarterback one of the 2025 NFL draft, but that was not because I thought Shedeur Sanders was a generational talent in the making. That was because of how I felt about this quarterback class. I no longer feel like Shedeur Sanders is going to end up being the best quarterback in this draft class, mainly because of the situation that he is at in Cleveland. You look at how Cleveland, they ruin quarterbacks. They don't develop quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders is not going to be able to save the dumpster fire that is known as the Cleveland Browns. I like to call them the Wasteland Browns because they're an absolute waste of an NFL franchise. They haven't been a good team for a long time. It's going to continue being that way. Obviously, you look at the quarterback room, Shedeur Sanders has the capability to be better than Dillon Gabriel. That's pretty much a guarantee. The question is, though, can he beat out Joe Flacco? Can he beat out Kenny Pickett? I don't think he can beat out Joe Flacco right away. Joe Flacco's a long-time NFL veteran. Yeah, he's got a turnover issue, but he's got a rocket for an arm, and he has plenty of experience. The Browns didn't sign Joe Flacco just for him to sit on the couch. They signed Joe Flacco so they could go ahead and use him as their placeholder starter. Deshaun Watson is going to be out for the season, so he's probably not going to be a factor in this quarterback competition. And of course, you got Kenny Pickett, a guy the Browns traded for. Normally, I would say Shedeur Sanders would be able to beat out Kenny Pickett in a quarterback competition. He is better than Kenny Pickett. However, Kenny Pickett was traded for, which means the Browns actually have resources that they spent on incredibly to get Kenny Pickett. Meanwhile, for Shedeur Sanders, all they spent was a 5th round draft pick. So I think Shedeur Sanders is going to start out the season as the quarterback 3. I think ultimately, though, he's going to progress into the quarterback 2 role. He's going to end up being the backup to Joe Flacco, and I believe Shedeur Sanders will at least get a couple of starts to end the season. The Cleveland Browns are going to play Shedeur Sanders around week 17, week 18. I believe Shedeur Sanders is going to start out being a productive player because he plays with extreme confidence. He's got incredible accuracy. I believe Shedeur Sanders is going to end up surprising a lot of people and playing really good football towards the end of his rookie year. And then I got the Cleveland Browns getting a new head coach in 2026. Shedeur Sanders is going to be the Browns starter in 2026 if he shows flashes of competence in 2025. I don't think it's necessarily going to go over too well, though, because the Browns are a dysfunctional franchise for a reason. Therefore, Shedeur Sanders is going to end up having a losing record as a starting quarterback in 2026, which means the Cleveland Browns are going to essentially move on from the Shedeur Sanders experiment. I believe Shedeur Sanders is going to end up being a veteran journeyman just because of the situation that he is in for Cleveland. He's not going to necessarily be a great quarterback in Cleveland. Could he be a great quarterback in a good situation? Yes, but do I see Shedeur Sanders carrying a bad franchise on his back? I don't. He takes a million sacks. He holds onto the football too long. And most importantly, how about the drama off the field? If you're starting Shedeur Sanders, he's going to be talked about on all these mainstream media shows every single week. And obviously that could serve as a distraction to the team. I'm not sure if the Browns want to invest full-time in Shedeur Sanders as a starter, but I do believe Shedeur Sanders will have an opportunity to play in the National Football League. And I believe Shedeur Sanders will do at least enough to stick around the National Football League somewhere. Of course, he's got to keep that ego in check, but if he can do that, then he's going to certainly have the potential to be a bridge quarterback in the NFL. Therefore, I'm basically saying that he's going to have a Sam Howell type of NFL career where he will have a chance to prove himself on a dysfunctional franchise. But if he doesn't do well in his one season as a starter, then the team is simply going to move on from Shedeur Sanders, and then he's going to spend the rest of his career jumping around from team to team. So that is why Shedeur Sanders will end up being Sam Howell 2.0 on the Browns, as Shedeur Sanders will have an opportunity to become a starting quarterback sooner rather than later. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That will be for the @DustinNasTran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @DustinNasTran and @SportsGuyTalking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @DustinNasTran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.